We are recording this. So if anyone misses it, they'll be able to watch it later. All right. First of all, welcome. Thank you guys who are attending virtually and y'all that made the trek here to be here in person. This is CSFP annual training. Most of you have been to this before. Has never been virtual before, so that's great that we could offer that option for many reasons. The obvious one being COVID, so we can all attend safely and all receive the training, but social distance in here, and also offer it for people at home. Good. There we go. All right. So since you guys run this program at your site, I think all of you know what this program is. Just for a brief overview, the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, short for CSFP, has many names. It's also Senior Food Box, the Commodity Box, goes by lots of names. So box of shelf-stable food specifically targeted towards seniors, right? We also add some cheese in there and some produce. So it's not supposed to feed seniors for a whole month, but it is supposed to supplement their diet. Okay. It's USDA food. For the state of South Carolina, it's provided by the Department of Agriculture. Okay. Before I go any farther, let me just take a minute to introduce my team, because a few faces have changed since the last time we met in person 2 years ago. We've added some new sites, and we've also added some new staff members. Joanna Bruno, which most of you know, she is attending virtually. She had some other things going on. So we have Ryan over here, who is new to us. He is our the Director of Agency Relations. Okay. So he's a great addition to our team. He's been here 2 months, 2.5, coming up on 3 months. So he's a great addition. So make sure you say hi to him.
They call me New Sam.
Yeah, so
Most of
you knew Samantha. We love Samantha. She moved to a different food bank. She is at the DC food bank now. Thriving and doing amazing. Of course, we knew that. So we miss her, but she's doing great things. We also have Tiffany, which some of you may have met her. She was our Vista AmeriCorps last year, and we have brought her on as a permanent part of our team here at the food bank. She's our agency relations coordinator.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So another great addition to our team, and she is also going to be helping with CSFP quite a bit. So her and I will be sharing that program. So you'll probably be hearing from her a lot more, addition to hearing from me. And also, she's our link to feed queen. We have been talking. We will talk about that a little bit more today. So you'll be hearing from her for CSFP, but also concerning link to feed, which you don't know much about. Just wait for it. When you leave today, you'll know a lot about it, hopefully. All right, self-introductions. I'm Paige Rizzo. I think I've met most of you and online as well, but I'm Paige Rizzo. I'm the agency relations manager, and I run the CSFP program here. Okay, and if you haven't heard my voice many times a month, nagging you for your report, then you've probably heard from me at least via email. Yes, everyone's not. That's okay. I'm good at nagging. All right, well, awesome. So first of all, thank you guys for being here today. We couldn't do this program without you guys. In person, virtually, everyone. Us as food bank employees, we could not be in all 10 counties where we have CSFP sites. We could not serve the 2,200 seniors that we serve every month. We can't be at all those places. We're only a few humans, right? We need you guys and your wonderful volunteers to be in your communities, which you know so well, to serve those seniors every month. So from all of us, thank you so much for not only serving these seniors every single month, just treating them with kindness and dignity, and just loving them, and just supporting them and walking alongside them in their lives. And then also just being here today for this training. We so appreciate you guys. Couldn't do it without you. All right, let's get started. So here is our agenda for today. We're going to try to stick to it pretty closely. If you have any questions, please, you can either put them in the chat if you're virtual, you can write them down, or we're going to try to save the questions for the end of the presentation. But I don't want you to forget them. So if you have a piece of paper, write that down, and then we'll try to address all those questions at the end. Okay? I know I said this training would be about 1 to 4. I do not think it'll take that long.
Good.
Yes. Thank you.
I would say at the latest it'll be 3 that we get done. Okay? Probably even shorter than that, but let's just set our expectations.
All right.
Okay. But we want to leave plenty of time for questions at the end. If you want to ask us individually afterwards or put it in the chat, we can address those questions you have. Probably other people are thinking similar questions. Okay. All right, so here's our agenda. So we're going to chat about link to feed. Okay. We're going to talk about the issuance register, just reminding people of those policies and protocols we have in place. Talk about the application, re-certification, talk about caseload, what's going on there, waiting list, active list, all of that. We're going to talk about the monthly timeline, okay? Getting those reports in. We're going to talk about different forms, closures, transfers, monthly reports, closure procedures, civil rights, public notification, and preparing for a Department of Agriculture compliance visit. Okay. Let's get started. All right, so link to feed. So I'm sure most of you have heard this term. We've been talking about it for over a year now. Link to feed is an online software that is used by food banks across the country. Tiffany was our AmeriCorps. She was brought on solely to kind of get this program off its feet, to train our agencies. This is a requirement by the Department of Agriculture for anyone using programs that deal with USDA foods, okay? And that is TFAP and CSFP, okay? So the deadline for our food bank is 2022 to get all of our sites on this link to feed program. So this program replaces our paper applications and our paper log. So you're not recording visits on paper, you're recording it in the system now. And this system contains all client information. It's a better way of tracking that client and tracking their information, providing them with more resources, and kind of getting better data collection. Okay? And it also makes us paperless, which is great. No mailing in your report, everything is online. Okay? That's a little bit about it if you haven't heard much about it from me yet. But it really does streamline that process. So like I said, this program will be required by all partners and agencies with USDA foods, CSFP, and TFAP by 2022. Okay, kind of our last year to get all that going, get everyone, with the program. Okay, so currently all CSFP client visits are being recorded in link to feed. Most of you, about 2/3 of you, are using this program. Okay, yourself, you're entering in link to feed, you have your own account. The other third of you, Low Country Food Bank staff is doing it on your behalf. So those of you who aren't using it yet, will be soon. So we're gonna try to get everyone who's not on it themselves onto this program. Okay. I know not everyone is super comfortable with computers,
No.
But we are here to help you guys. We are here to assist. We are here to go out to your site, help you during your distributions, to really make this transition as smooth as possible. Okay? And we're here to help you recruit people from your communities that might be a little more tech savvy, that can help you at your distributions. Okay, we know, it's okay. We know that the volunteer recruiting is difficult. We know that. But we are here to help with that as well. So don't be too scared about this. We will walk alongside you with this transition. But all partners with CSFP and TFAP program will be required to use it by 2022. Okay, so we're going to get you guys on board. The next couple of months, you'll be getting some emails and we'll be starting some trainings. Okay. If you are using Link to Feed already, but you're not using it live, what that means, there's a lot of people that are joining us virtually today. That means you're using it, but you're backdating those visits, right? You're entering them in after the fact, after your distribution. We are going to also transition that process to recording visits live. During your distribution, you will be recording. Susie Smith walks up to me. She says, "Hi, I'm here to get my CSFP box." We say, look up Susie Smith in the system and record her visit right there. Right? We're going to try to get everyone doing this program live as it's happening. That's going to help us with getting correct information, right? So sometimes a client will accidentally get 2 boxes from 2 different sites, but we don't have that information recorded live, so we can't stop that, right? And we all know that clients can only get 1 box. So if it was in the system and someone else tried to go in and give Susie Smith a box, you want to be able to, because it would say, "Oh, she's already gotten a box this month." So it eliminates those types of errors. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will also help you guys as that transition comes about. And this will also help you guys, y'all that are using TFAP. So TFAP, everyone's going to be required in 2022. So you're going to have to get on that train soon anyways, if you're using TFAP. So you might as well start and practice with this smaller program. And you're going to have to record TFAP visits live. Because with TFAP, we all know, you don't get a list, right? For CSFP, you have a list of clients. For TFAP, there's no list. So you have to do that live. You have to enter them in the system as you're doing the distribution. So we're going to start doing that for CSFP as well to get you used to it. So you'll be doing it live for TFAP and CSFP. It'll be the same, it'll be streamlined for both programs. Okay? I'm sure I will have lots of questions about that to address at the end, and that's okay. We will address that. I know that is new news, but I really think the transition, yes, will be a transition, but we will get there, and I think it's going to eliminate a lot of errors going down the line. Really make the best use of everyone's time. All right. But for right now, we do have people using Link to Feed in different ways. Right, we have some recording visits live, we have some people recording their visits after their distribution, and we have some people just filling out that paper and sending it to me. And we are entering the visits into Link to Feed. So if you're recording visits after your distribution, so you're using Link to Feed, but you're not doing it live. So here are a few reminders for you guys. So you're using your paper issuance register to record your visit in the attendance feature afterwards, right? So you do the paper and you go into the attendance feature in Link to Feed. Remember to always put the correct date. So if you're entering these visits, let's say 2 weeks later, make sure to change that date so it says the date the client actually received the box, not the day you're typing it in. Okay? Make sure to always make that date correct with when they received their product, when they received the box. Okay? Another reminder. If a client is highlighted in red, and you're in the attendance feature, they're red. I think we've eliminated most of these issues, but if it's in red, you cannot record that bulk visit. Because if someone's in red, it's not going to let you record all of them, even if it's just one. Okay? What I mean is highlighted red, and then on the far right column, it'll say, under the notes column, it'll say what the issue is. Right? It'll say ineligible for a visit, something like that. Make sure to click on that client's name and record their visit separately. Okay, for you to record all these, click all the clients that receive boxes, and then try to record that visit, and then all your work is gone because of those couple clients that were in red. Okay. Check your accuracy through kit issuance. So remember, when you are recording visits in bulk, make sure you are always checking your work afterwards with the kit issuance. Because you might record all those visits, but we're all humans, right? We all make mistakes. So we always want to check our work, check in the kit issuance, make sure that the number you were trying to enter in is the number that came out. Okay? Because when you send me those numbers, they need to be correct, because I then need to send them to the Department of Agriculture. And that is as important as it sounds, because that has to do with money and getting reimbursed for those boxes, which makes it free to us and free to you guys and free to our clients, right? So we need to make sure those numbers are accurate. Okay? So feel free to jump in with anything related. All right. So recording visits live. I talked about this a little bit, but there are multiple benefits of recording visits live. Ensures accuracy, right? Eliminates those errors we were talking about. Less discrepancies of numbers of visits because it's happening right there in front of you. You see the client, you record a visit, right? It's hard to make a mistake when they're right there and you're entering in right as it's happening. Also gives your staff practice. Like I said before, practice for feedback, right? On a smaller program, on a smaller scale. Okay. Also, when you are finished with your distribution, you're done, right? So you don't have to do any work after the fact. You don't need to go through and check and record all your visits and link to feed. You're done. You're gonna go home. So there are lots of benefits of doing it live. I know the transition will be a learning curve, but there really are lots of benefits to recording links to feed live. Okay. So suspended status. So this is for everyone, whether you're using the paper or whether you're using link to feed. Suspended status. We've all seen that, right, on the issuance register, and we're like, what is that? What does that mean? So this is a feature that when we started using link to feed, it's something that automatically happens in link to feed. So we all know the rule, right? 2 months, if client misses 2 months, then they can be closed. So they don't really have to close them, but they can be closed. And because we want to make sure that any seniors that are eligible, we are getting them boxes. And that requires seniors to come as frequently as they can, preferably every month. So when the client misses 2 months, link to feed automatically changes their status from active to suspended. Okay? So it doesn't automatically close them, but it alerts us by putting them in that status that they've missed 2 months. Okay? So once that happens, they're gonna be red. You're not gonna be able to record that visit and link to feed. You will have to go in and switch their status. Because if they show up after 2 months, that's great. We can switch them back to active status. Not a big deal. but you will have to go in and do that on their LinkedIn feed, on the profile. Okay. So if you have a client that's in suspended status, you can give them a box, but it's kind of like when we have extra boxes for the waiting list. You can give them those boxes, but because they're in suspended status, I can only send you boxes enough for the active list, right? That's kind of the general rule. Sometimes we have extras, and I'll send you a few extras here and there, but we send enough boxes for the active list. So if you have 20 clients in suspended status, I'm not going to send you those 20 boxes, because the rule is to send enough for your active list. So you can give boxes to those folks in suspended status, but you need to make sure you give boxes to your active list folks first, kind of like on the waiting list. Okay. But you guys need to make sure you're keeping up on that list, right? So if you have a bunch of clients in suspended status, pick up the phone, right? Call them, hey, do you want to stay on this program, or would you like to be removed? Okay. Because you guys know these folks, they're in your communities. I don't, right? I don't know these guys. Okay. All right, so issuance register. So, like I said, suspended status, I'm gonna have myself. You only be sent enough boxes for your active list, that's that. And you can give a box that's kind of like waiting list. Okay. All right, blank issuance register. This is that blank sheet that I always send, right? Where you can write in folks' names. Can anyone tell me what that is used for? What is its proper use? Feel free to shout it out or put it in the chat if you really want to. What are you supposed to use that blank register for?
Which one are you talking about?
It's a blank sheet of paper with the lines on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually tucked in behind your list of names, behind your issuance register.
If you have a car, if you have a car that's eligible for your box, and you have enough box evil for a box that somebody didn't pick up, that car can take that box and then you can sign it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's correct. But she missed one little thing in there. Can anybody tell me what it is? What do you
New
need to-
clients.
New clients, so Becky went.
New clients.
Thank you, Becky.
And also Mary Hill, thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, that's what it is, yes. If they're new and if they're eligible, but we need to also turn in an application,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So we need that application, or they need to be entered into a link to feed, right? But that, because if they're new, if they're coming to you for the first time, their name's not gonna be on your list.
Right.
So that's where you can write their name. But that is the only reason that a client should be put on that list, right? So if you think a client should be on your list and they're not, that's not a good reason to put them on the list. If a client name is on that list, they need an application, okay? Or they need to have their application completed in link to feed, paper or in link to feed, but you need an application if they are on that list, okay? All right. So, any person receiving a CSFP box must have a what?
Application
Thank
on
you.
file.
Application on file. It is a federal program, which we all know because all of the paperwork, right? So it is federal, and this is federal money, right? Free to the food bank, free to you guys, free to our clients. So that is federal funds through food, right? We get reimbursed to purchase that food here at the food bank. So we need to always make sure so that we are filling out applications so we know who that food is going to, right? So we know it's seniors, we know it's seniors in need. need an application on file. Okay, let's talk about the paper application and issuance register for a minute. Yes, we are trying to get everyone on the link to feed, but that's not going to happen overnight, right? It's going to happen over the course of several months. So we're still going to be using the paper for a little bit longer. So let's just make sure we're doing it the correct way while we're doing it. Okay. So the paper app and issuance register. So the application. The application includes 4 papers if they're separate, or 2 if they're front and back. If you're trying to, save the trees. So first page is the application papers. Client information, it's address, right? It's phone number, how much income they make, all that jazz. Page 2, the eligibility notification and the participation agreement. Okay. Number 3 is the addendum. And then number 4 is the other side of the addendum. Okay. So that's going to be some questions that are asked on link to feed that we need in order to enter that client in. And also the chart. Remember seeing that chart on the back of the application? Right? So that is where you're going to list family members. And I know there's some confusion with that one. But so for that chart, everyone know what I'm talking about? The chart on the paper application. So on that last page, there's that chart, and you're not going to put the client on that list. The client, the whole application is about the client. We don't need them on there. All we need is any household members. Okay? Anybody living in the house with them and sharing that food. Okay? Because this program is income eligible, right? So we need to know how many people are in their household in order to see if their income is eligible for them to be in the program. Okay, so you're going to write down the household members, their relationship to the client, spouse, grandson, granddaughter, brother, sister, daughter. And you're going to put how much they make, right? I know it's a difficult question to ask clients. It's a little uncomfortable. People don't want to share that about themselves. But it is self-stated. So if they, give you the number off the top of your head, that's what you write down. You don't need any proof, right? But we do need that income to the best of the client's knowledge to see if they are eligible for the program. Okay. So this might be news to some of you. You no longer need to provide a copy of the client's ID. Got it? So you know how you get the ID, you would run inside, you go make a photocopy? Don't need to do that anymore. All right? You don't need a copy of the ID. You still need to check the ID. I'm going to repeat that. You still need to check the ID. Okay? If you're using link speed or not, you still need to check it. And can anyone tell me via the chat or in person, what are you checking for? When you check an ID, what are you checking? Address, date of birth.
Should be old enough.
Yeah, date of birth. Yeah, see if they're 6 years or older. Okay, good. Why are we checking address?
If they live at that town and we live in.
There it is. See if they live in your county. Right? So you can only serve clients in your county. Good. So that's why we still need to check the ID, but we don't need to get a copy of it anymore. Okay? All right. Talk about the paper issuance register. So signatures, we still need signatures, but they don't have to be the clients. This was a rule that changed during COVID. Department of Agriculture said, we know that sharing of pins, there's a lot of germs involved, that we can have volunteers do that signature or those initials. But, and they ended up just keeping that rule. They said, we're just going to keep it this way. So it can be a client signature, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a volunteer signature, so either one. Right? We do need a signature though. This doesn't have to be the client or volunteer or director. Okay? So if a client does sign for themselves, make sure it is legible. Make sure it is clear what client they are signing for. Okay? I can tell you how many times I'm in my office trying to figure out what name that says. Okay?
Not the prescription.
So make sure it's legible. I mean, I was a teacher once, so I'm pretty good at reading down handwriting, but
No way.
it's tricky. It's tricky. All right. Make sure that you guys are signing only for clients that are present, that are right in front of you.
Amen.
Okay? So we're not gonna, call Bob Lou. Okay, you coming for your box? Yeah, I'm coming. I'm leaving the house now. I'll be here in 30 minutes. Oh, I'll write down his name. Nope. We're gonna wait till he gets there, because what if he has car trouble and he can't make it? Then your numbers are off. Right? You can only write down a name or put them in link to feed to record a visit if they're there in front of you. Right? That's going to eliminate a lot of errors. I know sometimes it might seem like you're saving time that way, but it creates a lot of errors that way. Okay? So they need to be present for you to record a visit for them. All right. Let's make sure that we are checking in with proxies. I know all of you have clients that you haven't seen maybe in years. They might be house-ridden, right? They have to stay in their house. They're disabled. They don't drive for whatever reason. But of course, they still need food. So they have someone that picks it up for them as their proxy, which is great. But let's make sure we're checking in with those clients. Happens very rarely, but I have had a few cases where we call a client for this reason or that, and they say, I haven't gotten that box of food for years, but that proxy is still picking up for them. And usually it's not with malintention, but we need to make sure that those proxies know that this food is for seniors specifically. There are a lot of other resources to get food, no matter your age, no eligibility. But this food specifically is for seniors. So we need to make sure it's getting to those seniors on our list. So if you only see a proxy, make sure you're giving them a call every once in a while. Just to make sure they're getting that food, ask if they're enjoying it, how do you like your sweet potatoes this month? Or, did you look at that recipe booklet in your box? Did you try that recipe out? Right? Let's make sure we're checking in with them. All right. This is really important. Make sure you're counting your signatures. All right, this is for y'all using the paper. Make sure you're counting them. Okay? Because if you don't, I get here, there might be off one or two. And I have to call you. You have to try to remember from a week ago who came and who didn't come to your distribution. Right? It's a lot harder. So if right after your distribution, you're still sitting there, you count them. Like, oh, I'm one off. Who did I miss? Right? Much easier to do it right there, right then. Okay? And it helps us out a lot. Right? We have less errors, things are more accurate. Okay? And I've said this once before, but it's worth reiterating. Income is self-declared. This has been this way for a couple years now, but I occasionally will still see a copy of a Social Security statement, things like that. We don't need any of that. Income is self-declared. ID, we don't need a copy of that either. We don't need any proof documentation. We don't need proof of address, and we don't need proof of income. Okay, it's all self-stated. They tell you they made $50 a month, you write that down. Okay, Self-stated. All right. Can anyone tell me how you figure out what county the client lives in based on checking their ID? Via chat or in person?
The very first one,
Very first number?
let's see, that's 11. That's, I think that's just enough. Mhm.
Yep, right there. So based on different IDs, it's gonna be that first number,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
Anybody know what their county code for their county is?
I think it's 2, but.
So Charleston is 10.
Okay.
I never knew this before.
The last one over there, is that the last one over there?
Yep, it was in Charleston County.
We have in the chat referred as 7.
Good, very good. Yeah, it's not that important that you know it. I was just curious because I didn't know this before the program, right? But if you are checking someone's ID and you don't recognize, maybe you just moved there, I don't know, and you don't recognize the city name, like, is that in the county? Sure. And make sure we know that county code, right?
How do we find out the county code?
Yeah, so here's the trick. What is your CSFP code?
Mine is 1.
Okay, let's go one at a time. Okay, G. What are the first 2 numbers of that? Oh, wait, that's your county code. So you said 45?
Mine is 45,
Yeah.
004.
Okay,
45.
so your county code is 45. Those first 2 numbers before the dash, that is your county code. Okay, yeah, who knew, right?
And then also up at the top of your paper, that the truck driver brings, under the address, it's up under there too.
Yep, your county code is right there. That's correct. So that's how you know your county code. Good question. All right, these are the things that are still the same in the program. Participants still must meet the income eligibility guidelines. Everyone should have the updated guidelines. If you don't, please let me know and I can either email them to you, or if you're here in person, I can give you a fresh one, okay? And they still must be 60 years or older, okay? We must ask for age and address verification, and that's through the ID, right? We're checking that ID. We don't need to get a copy of it. But we don't need proof of income, right? Self-stated. We must always accept new applicants. Okay. So if a client comes up to you like, I heard about this box for seniors, they will, you need them to get to, they need to fill out an application. They want to be a part of the program, you have to offer them an application. And that's not our rule. That is a federal guideline. Okay? It has to be available to anyone who is interested. Okay? So I know, especially with our additional caseload, some of you guys have been getting a lot of clients and you may be short on volunteers, especially during COVID. I know that's been a problem across the board. Regardless, we still have to accept applications. We cannot turn folks away, right? That is against federal policy. And we have to accept new clients. CSFP site coordinators may not use proxies, right? It's just, we need to make sure that there's that line, right? You're passing out the food, we need to make sure the food is going to the seniors. So that's just one federal rule that is put in place.
You have volunteers that are eligible for it?
Yeah. You, directors and volunteers may get a box if you're eligible. Yes, good question. You most definitely can get a box. but being a proxy, picking up for someone else is not allowed, okay? And I know some sites, we've had offline conversations and we've worked something out for some delivery systems. That's a little bit different. If you have a special case, come to us and we will see if we can work something out. But kind of as a federal rule is that site coordinators can't be.
Real quick, just for everyone to hear online, could you repeat the question if anybody in person asked?
Oh, sure.
Just so they can hear what the question was. I think they're hearing just the answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good point.
Could you repeat what you just said also about the proxy?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep. So CSFP site coordinators may not be proxies. Okay. So that means you can't pick up a box for your neighbor who's a part of the program or anyone else on your list. Right. But we did have a question, going back to repeat the question about if volunteers or site coordinators can receive a box themselves if they're eligible. And the answer is yes. Right? So if your volunteers are eligible, they are free to be added to the list and they can get a box. Volunteers, coordinators, anyone who's eligible. And we talked about this. Anyone receiving a box must have what on file? Application. Yes, right.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you speak to about we accept the application, but the application is guaranteed that they will get a box?
Great question, Ryan. Just for those online, I'm going to repeat Ryan's question. He asked, just because we are required to receive those applications, does that mean they are guaranteed a box? Anyone answer that?
No.
No, it's not a guarantee. Great question. As all of you know, right now, or you may not know, we're going to talk about this in a bit. We have an abundance of caseload right now. That has not always been the case, right? This is the first time in my time running the program that it has been the case, right? And it just depends where money's going in the federal government. And we are lucky right now, lots of money are going into these programs. And we have lots of money in CSFP right now for our state and for our food bank. So right now we do have a lot of clients on the active list and we're able to move waiting list clients to the active list. But that does not mean that will always be the case. A lot of you have been around long enough to know that hasn't been the case for a long time. So clients, if they submit an application, they will go to the waiting list. But then we can always move them to the active list if we have those spots available, which right now we do, won't always be the case. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk a little more about caseload. You can kind of get in the woods with it a bit when you're talking about caseload and numbers. We'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. Okay, great question. All right, re-certification. You can answer, kind of give away the answers. I try to ask these questions. My teacher-ness comes out of it. I try to ask these questions like, oh, I put it in the slides. But what is re-certification?
Annual date that you fill out the application.
Annual date when?
January.
January. Yes. So re-certification, it used to be, random dates whenever a client has been on board for a year, their year anniversary. Now it happens for everyone in January. Pre-certification, make sure the participants are still eligible, right? Make sure they're still eligible with income and with age. I don't think our clients are getting any younger, so that shouldn't be an issue. But income, county, that address, and then also just to collect information. Make sure their address hasn't changed. Make sure their phone number hasn't changed. make sure their household members haven't changed, because that could change their income eligibility. Okay? So these are all the things we're asking and checking during recertification in January. So it is always helpful to prepare staff, volunteers, and clients. The wait times might be a little bit longer. If you're doing Link to Fee live during this time, which I hope more of you will be, that will take longer, right? You have to go through and check the information. If you're doing it on paper, it's going to take a little bit longer. So it's helpful in December to let clients know that. You put up a sign, you tell them, just so everyone's prepared, right? Things are easier to swallow if you're prepared for them, if you allot that time. So, how to recertify, and because we're still working on 2 different platforms, some are using paper, some are using Link to Fee. How to do it on paper. In January, in your January packet, you will receive a recertification sheet, in your packet. As each person picks up their box, you're going to confirm that these things, if they've changed, to let you know the change. If they stayed the same, to let you know that. You're going to see if their income has changed, if their address has changed, if their phone number has changed, and if their household members, anyone there has changed. Yeah, some of this is required for eligibility. Some of it is just helpful for communication, right? So if you have lots of extra boxes, you all have been there where you try to call clients and then the phone number disconnected,
Yeah.
right? Everyone has that issue. So during recertification, it may take longer to ask that question, to get that phone number, but that's going to help you all year long, right? To get that updated phone number.
You have new clients also, they put video number, and then when you're trying to call them, that they are eligible now
Yeah.
to come in, you can't reach them.
That does happen.
Even with the address, I even tried going to that address.
No. Yeah. So for y'all on the online, Dean was talking about clients who give phone numbers and their wrong number, right? And I know you all have experienced that. And all we can do is call, right? And if it's disconnected, there's nothing else we can do. But it does help. It does eliminate that number if we are getting updated phone numbers each year during recertification. That's going to help us out a lot. And then once that is completed, you're going to put that updated information. You're going to put your initials, you or your volunteer that's completing it, and then you're going to return it to me. Okay, return it with your packet. And if you're filling out the online report at the end of the month, just email it to me. Okay, because I will need that back. If you're doing it on paper, if you are doing it online and linked to fees, you don't need any proof of that because all of that will be completed and linked. What's up, Brad?
And Proxies complete this process for the client.
Good question. If they know the information.
Majority of them bring it. Majority of them bring it. It's fine.
Will bring what?
Their certification attorney, that they have the annual, they bring it. They'll bring, have it written out and put in the envelope and send it.
Oh, okay.
And then I will call them and be sure that you send me this, and they just verify, and then I will do it.
Okay. So we do need, because recertification, you're getting updated information, right? But you're also getting the client's signature that they want to be a part of the program for this next year, right? They're signing something that it is their information. So because of that, we do need to make sure that it is the client, it is their information, it is them consenting to this. So whether that means a phone call, right there in person or after the fact.
So that being, in other words, the client has to sign that instead of.
So, that's a good question, Ryan. You stumped me a little.
I can jump in. When it comes to recertification or any kind of profile review, when it's on link to fee, it is basically you're getting like a verbal consent. Okay, so you're getting a verbal consent. So if you were to call over the phone and get that verbal consent, you would record, the agency will record the signature on behalf of the client.
Yes.
Right.
Now, when it's on paper, I think you're still okay, you're still approved to sign on behalf of the client once you get that verbal consent. So it's almost like we're working on the honor system on making sure that you're giving each and every, client a voice, a chance to communicate that they are cool with what we're doing before you kind of proceed, but it is acceptable for us to record the signatures on behalf of clients.
Thank you. Well said. Does that answer everyone's question? So, any questions in the chat, feel free to drop it in and we can clarify more at the end. If there's any confusion about that part of it. Okay. All right, so how to recertify if you're doing it in link to fee. Okay, so same thing. Well, let me back up a little. In link to fee, if you are entering visits after the fact. That's how most of our link to fee users are doing it right now. Hopefully soon, maybe in January, some of you will be doing it live. It's a similar process, both ways for recertification. So in January, you will receive your recertification sheet in your invoice packet, and you'll record on the paper if you're still doing paper live. You will fill that out. But here's what's going to be different in January. You will not be able to record visits in bulk for recertification month. Okay? Because when a client is red, they will all be red. Because it'll say recertification needed. So you will have to go into each individual client and do a profile review. You're going to look at every page. If you have that on paper, you will say, okay, I checked their phone number, it changed to this. Change that in the profile. Okay, they added a household member. You're going to add that household member. Okay, and then when you get to the CSFP page, this is important. You are going to go to the very bottom. There's that little blue button in the bottom left-hand corner that says Re-Certify. Even if you check everything, you will not be able to record a visit until you hit that Re-Certify button. You're going to sign on behalf of the client, type in their name, and then you'll be able to record their visit for the month. You can then record visits on each profile, or once you're done with everyone, you can then go into the attendance feature and record it in bulk that way. So there's two options there. Okay. Of course, if you're doing it live, you will do that whole process with the client right in front of you. And obviously that is the best choice. You are going to get exact information right from the client's mouth. As you look at the question, just say, oh, has your phone number changed? Yes, it has. You're going to type that in. Has your household changed? Has your income changed? We'll type it in. And then when that client walks out their box, their recertification is finished. Okay? So that would be ideal, and it really does save some time. Right? It's going to maybe take a little bit longer at your distribution. And that's why we warn clients in December. We let them know, maybe we extend our hours for that month. Right? There's different ways we can make that easier. So I know it does take a little longer. But guess what? It's only once a year. 1 month. We can all do 1 month. Right? Also, we're recording. All right. Okay. All right. Let's see what else. Talked about recertifying on their CSFP page. And then you can either record in bulk or record on each client's profile. Okay? Any questions about that? No? Okay. Just want to make sure, because that's a little bit confusing to try to explain if you don't have links to feed up. So if anybody in the in Zoom needs some clarification on that, we can discuss that afterwards. All right. Proxies. So each participant may assign 2 people as their proxies, but only 2, right? So this comes back to the federal regulation that we want to make sure we know that food is going to seniors. If we have someone picking up 20 boxes, it's a little harder to determine if those 20 boxes are getting to the 20 clients, right? If we limit it to 2, that's easier to track. If you have someone who wants to pick up for more than 1, address that offline, and we can talk about if we can make something work. But there are some special situations, like with delivering and things like that. We can talk about that. All right, caseload. I'm sure all of you have heard a little bit about, what's going on, or at least figured it out, because I've been pushing boxes on everyone. Like, hey, can you take 10 more? I'm gonna send you 20 extra this month. Yeah, I know. I can be pushy, but it's really for a great reason, because we have additional caseload. That's great news. We get to feed more seniors, right? So that is great. I had a conversation last week with Chris Doyle. If any of you remember our last in-person training, he was here with us because he was new to the position. So if you met him, he is still our contact. He is great. He has some great goals for CSFP. He wants to have CSFP and TFAP in every county in the state of South Carolina. That's his goal. So he is here for the right reasons. He really wants to feed the people of South Carolina. So I had a conversation with him last week. I said, what's caseload looking like for next year? We're not gonna find out for another 6 or 7 months what that new caseload will look like. But he said there's a very good chance that it could go up. We don't know that for sure. I'm not making any promises. But we at least don't think we'll get a decrease, right? So that is great news. We are looking at adding some more sites. We've already added 5 sites in the last several months, last 3 or 4 months. So Country Cares is new. Living Word is new-ish. So we've been adding new sites because we have this additional caseload, and we're going to be adding more new sites. That's great. We're in areas that we haven't been. We're tapping into seniors that aren't getting that reliable food source. So you guys have probably heard this before. The magic number with caseload is 95. 95%. So caseload happens on several levels, right? The tracking of caseload. We have at the federal level, very highest, right? The caseload for all the food banks in this participating in this program in the US. Then you have food banks, right? You have caseload for individual food banks. Then you have sites, caseload for different sites. So, I missed the level, state level. So the caseload for the state level. So the goal for each state is to hit 95% of that caseload. If you hit 95%, there's a good chance you'll get more next year. If you hit below that, they say, well, you're not using what you have, why should we give you more? And it happens on the food bank level as well. If we hit 95%, there's a good chance we'll at least stay the same. We might go up. So what that means is you guys are distributing more boxes, means we're getting closer to that 95%. And we'll be able to serve more seniors next year. Okay? So we've done really good the last couple years. Our fiscal year is ending this month. September is the last month. October is the start of the new fiscal year. So as of this month, we're at 94, 95%. We're right there on the cusp. So looking pretty good. Okay, but just kind of give you guys some background of why I'm always pushing boxes, saying, hey, call your waiting list. Make sure you're advertising to get new applications. It's because we want to serve more seniors. We want to keep being able to serve more. Call your waiting list clients. Okay, make sure we're calling. People forget, right? Especially seniors. It's easy to forget.
Oh, yes.
I'm not a senior. I forget. We all forget. So make sure we're calling them. New sites. Like I said, we've added some new sites. We are working on adding more sites. If you're here in person, I have some new site lists. So if you have clients that are in a different county, you can recommend a site for them.
Okay.
Okay. And we have some new ones. So I want to give you that updated list. Those online, I'm going to send an email out shortly after we're finished here. And I'm going to attach that new site list. So you have that. Okay. Just a second. I have a thought in my head. It'll fall out if I don't say it. Hold that question. Also, I want to mention that we have a new website for the food bank.
Thank the Lord.
Amen. So we have a new website. And I have added a CSFP section. Yay! So we have all of those forms that you guys are always asking me for right there on the
Thank the
website.
Lord. Wow.
Yay!
Mhm.
So that's great. So you go to partner agencies, there's a little tile that says that I think it actually says Commodity Supplemental Food Program.
Are you gonna give us a copy of this afterwards?
Copy of
Everything?
the slides.
Uh-huh. And what you telling us now?
I'm gonna send the slides out via email. If you need a paper copy, hit me up afterwards and I can print it for you.
Thank you.
Good question. That's not relevant. The chat. Just for everyone on Zoom, the question was asked if they were gonna get a copy of the slides for after the presentation. And that will be available. Also, in the email I send afterwards, I'm gonna include the PowerPoint slides, so you have those to reference. I'm gonna include the site list and the link to the survey if you guys can fill that out. Okay, and then also I'm gonna email the survey out to you guys. And if you guys don't have access to email, if you're here in person, let me know before you leave, so I can print out that survey out for you. Okay. You being sassy, Ethel. Okay, Ryan, you have a question for me?
Well, I caught myself mouthing website, when I realized I have a mask on, so you couldn't see what I was saying. But yeah, if you go to the website, look at the very top right-hand corner of the page, you'll see, partner agencies, click on that, put everything you need on the buttons right there for you.
It's about time.
So you're reading my mind.
Yeah.
I'm
right,
all
you're
over the place.
All right, so yeah, so we're just talking about, we had lots of questions about the website in here. So, yay, new website, forms, so you don't have to email me whenever you need a form. I mean, you still can, I love hearing from you guys, but you can also go to the website. All right, closure procedures. So we talked about this. Participants who don't pick up 2 months in a row will be moved to that suspended status automatically. That's not me. You know, I'm not moving those clients to suspended status. That is happening automatically. In link to fee. I can't stop it. So make sure if give them a call if they're in that suspended status. See if they don't want to pick up that box anymore. It might just be having transportation issues. I know that's very common. And if they are, that's okay. You can keep them on the program. It's ideal that they come every month, but we know that that's not always available. You know, sometimes these seniors, they don't have a car, they can't drive, they have to get a ride. I'm not gonna remove them from the program just because they can't get a ride.
Mhm.
So that's okay if that's their situation, we can keep them on the program. But we want to eliminate clients that are not picking up anymore. They don't want the box anymore. We need to eliminate them so we can add new clients that do want and need the box,
Mhm.
right? Because we do have that limited caseload. So we have to use those available slots as, you know, the best as we can. So make sure you're calling clients if they want to be closed. What do you need to send them? A closure notification. Thank you, Lula. So we need to be sending closure notifications. And when I say we, I don't mean me. I mean you guys.
Mhm.
They're your clients. You guys know your clients. You have their addresses. So it is y'all's responsibility to send those closure letters.
Mhm.
Trust me, I know you guys are very busy and you are unpaid volunteers, 98% of you.
Mhm.
And a lot of you have full-time jobs,
Mhm.
or part-time jobs, family. You guys are busy, I know this.
Mhm.
But you guys really need to be sending those closure letters because it is important to keep serving as many seniors as possible. Okay? And maintaining those lists. If you are really overwhelmed and you need some support 1 month, we can help you out. But ultimately, it's your guys' responsibility. And have your volunteers help you, right? So don't put all the burden on yourselves. Have your team support you in that. Okay? But ultimately, it is the agency responsibility. Okay? Alongside that, if you are using Link to Feed, please change the client status on their CSFP page to close. Or if they're deceased, change it to deceased. So be very careful with using that deceased button because that is not something you can undo. You can't bring someone back to life in Link to Feed.
Mhm.
So if it's deceased, it is permanent. If you close a client, that client profile will still be there if you want to go and reactivate them at some point. Right? If you aren't using Link to Feed, please send me a copy of the closure. So I know that and I can close them in the system. Eventually you guys will be using it because you'll be using Link to Feed. If a closed participant wants to rejoin the program, they need to reapply. And they'll be added to the waiting list, and if we have slots, we can move them back to the active list. But if they ask to be closed, they're closed, right? We need to get that updated information from them with the new application. But sometimes it's been like a year, and they want to add it back. Lots of information can change in a year. So we need to make sure we get that new application if they choose to be closed and they want to reapply later, we need that application. All right. If you are still using paper closure notifications, just a reminder, this is what it looks like. We need to make sure that we are filling out every part of it. Right? Make sure you put the client name. Make sure you put your site number. Because I have tons of reports to look through every month. And if they get shuffled around, I won't know what site they're from. So you need to put your site number. That blank that's blacked out used to say social security number. We no longer collect social security number. Okay? I think I talked about that in a few slides. But we do not need to collect social security number for any reason. And I have removed that from all the forms, and Link to Feed does not collect it. So, I know that is a security issue for lots of clients. They don't like getting that out, and I don't blame them. So we do not collect that. Yes, Ethel.
Do I have some of this? I have one lady who no longer wants the box.
Okay.
Do I have closure paper?
I will give it to you at the end. Hit me up afterwards.
Thank you.
Ethel was asking for a closure notification. If you guys need any forms, please email me, but like I just said, also on the website. So if you're here in person and you need a form, hit me up afterwards and we can print you those forms. Okay. So make sure you put the date of their, that they choose to be removed from the program. Mark the reason, you're no longer eligible, your income exceeds the limit, you're no longer a resident of this county, you've failed to pick up your box for 2 months. Another common reason is if the client is deceased. Okay, you can write that in the other column. All right, and then you'll sign your name or whoever's filling this out, volunteer, director of the program, whatever. And then the phone number that they can call if they receive this and still want to get the box. They have 15 days to do so. If they call you and say, oh, I'm sorry I didn't have a ride, I want to be a part of the program, then they have 15 days, about 2 weeks to do that. And then make sure you put that notice date, the day that you're filling this out, or the day that you talked to them, that they said, I don't want the box, so they know they have 15 days from that date.
We have a question
Yes.
from Samantha Lyons. We need to do a closure letter for someone that is deceased.
Yes, actually. Yeah, this is a common question I get, and it does seem strange. But there may still be someone living at that house, or if that client had a proxy picking it up, that proxy might still come to pick that box up. So we need to make sure that there is written communication that they are no longer getting that box, because that client is no longer eligible because they are deceased. But if that proxy, if they're eligible and they want the box, they can sign up themselves. And because we need to make sure the box is going to the client on file. Okay? Good question. All right. Timeline. When do reports need to be submitted?
We got them.
The week after.
5 days.
Yes, 5 days. I've even given you guys some grace because the rule used to be 5 days. So I'm giving you a full week now.
Oh, really?
Okay.
7 days?
3 days, 1 time.
Yeah, good job.
I know.
Because I know for sure, because we're packing boxes next week, and how many do we have to? 5
Stop.
reports.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, about 5. I know you guys are done distributing. I know that. 'Cause I set those dates up. Okay. So I know it's hard. I know y'all are busy, but if you don't want a phone call from me saying, hey, here's your report. Got that in yet? Come on. Or a million emails saying the same thing. So a week after your distribution.
We be trying.
I know. So we've been slacking off a little, so let's try to get back on that. That would be really helpful for us as we're trying to, get everything together. Because by the end of the month, Tiffany and I have to get all the data from this month, do some calculations, and then get everything ready for the next month. Because some of you guys distribute at the very beginning of the month. So we have to wrap up this month and get everything for the next month started at the same time. So we need everyone's information to do that. So it's really helpful for us if you guys get your report in on time, which is a week after your distribution. Okay? I have some sites that get it to me that afternoon or the day after. Good job.
Oh, God, gee,
Give you air high five to all of you.
they are terrible.
No, don't say that.
Jeez.
So I know all of, some of you are really timely on that. That's great. But let's try to all be really great in that department. All right.
Okay, before we get too far along, we have another question about the suspended status.
Okay.
So Jill's asking, at what point in the month will the system change to the suspended status? We will need to run our report before then, so we know who was newly suspended. And I think she's referencing links to fees.
Yep, I think I understand the question. So suspended off, kind of two parts. The first part, I will answer that. So suspended status goes into effect 2 months after their last visit. So link fee takes the last time they were served a CSFP box. 2 months after that date, they will change to suspended status. And I'm not sure I understand the second part about pulling a report to see new suspended clients. Jill, if you want to elaborate in the chat, we can address that. Good. So I know 2019, maybe it was last year, we moved some distributions out to earlier in the month so that everything was happening mostly in the first 2 weeks. We have a few that are happening in the third week now. Not very many, maybe like
No,
5,
I went
6.
back up, I went to the same.
Yeah, so most everyone's distributing in the first or second week of the month. Which is great, but if you are later in the month and you're having trouble getting your report in on time, we might have to have a conversation about moving your distribution up in the month so that's easier for both of us. Okay?
Jill has elaborated.
Okay.
So she wants to know how will we know who is newly suspended to send the letter? And I'm assuming that would be the kit issuance as far as running a.
Yep. Yep, you would run a kit issuance to find out who is suspended. Yeah, I suppose, Jill, you could just run it. Are you thinking? I suppose you would run it before, are you looking to send the closure notifications before your distribution? I'm guessing that's what you're talking about, Jill. So I guess you would just check it, roughly 2 weeks before your next distribution to see who is suspended, and then they would have that time to respond to you before your next distribution. Does that make sense? Okay. I don't know if I'm making sense there. So Jill, let me know if that makes sense. If you still have questions about that, feel free to call me after this and we can talk about that more in detail to make sure I'm understanding what you're asking there. Thanks, Jill. Okay, moving along. Monthly reports for anyone using paper right now. Anyone using paper and not using lazy feed in any capacity. Okay, this is for y'all.
Okay.
Make sure you are done with your distribution. You are ready to send me your report. When are you sending it to me?
A week after.
A week after.
No later than a week.
No,
Okay. Maybe you're sending it to me 1 day after.
Ooh.
Yeah?
Let's go.
I have faith in you. You can do it. Okay. So you're sending me that, you're sitting down, you have, all your signatures are there. What's your first step? What are you doing with the signatures? You are
I'm counting.
counting
I'm
them.
counting.
You're counting your signatures. All right. What are we doing after that?
Carry it up.
Okay, we tally it up, we add it up,
Mhm.
and then
Get that paper, start filling out that
and then we're
paper.
filling out a report.
Right,
Okay?
gotcha.
So let's make sure when we are filling out this report, we are filling it out completely. Like I said, I get a lot of these reports. If you don't put your site name or code, I'm not a handwriting analysis person. I need you to put your name so I know who this is for. Okay? So you need your site name, you need your site code. And then let's make sure we're filling out A through E. You are saying how many boxes you had left over last month. You are writing down how many boxes you received this month. You are writing down the total. And then you're writing down, this is the most important number, how many you distributed, and then how many you had left, okay? Let's just make sure we're being thorough. I know you guys are busy and it takes some time to read those questions and make sure we're writing the right number. Because sometimes I have a report with no name and it says 47, 47, 47, 47, 47. I know all those numbers aren't 47. So let's make sure we are reading the questions, writing the correct number, and filling it out completely with your signature at the bottom and returning it to me. Okay? Ideally, I would like these reports turned in via email. That's the best. Because if we wait for snail mail or if we wait for faxing, there's lots of issues. Faxing, there's been lots of issues. Yeah. So if there's any way you could email it to me, that would really be ideal. So if you need some help with that, we can talk about that. I would really like this year to switch everyone electronic. So we're not dealing with snail mail, we're not dealing with any of that. Email or electronic. Okay? That would be ideal. We need to talk through that. We can do that. We are here to support you guys in that. Okay? So completed cover page. You are including your signed issuance register. You are including new applications, new closure letters or closure forms, or transfer forms. Okay? We haven't talked much about transfer forms. You guys probably won't encounter this much. This is for any clients moving sites. Right? Maybe they move, maybe they just want to go to a different site, just close to the house, whatever. You'll do a transfer form and send it to me so I know to move their site. And this goes for everyone. No boxes should be distributed after you send me your report. That indicates to me you are done distributing for the month. I know that it is difficult to get every single box out in one day. It was very difficult. We have clients that are like, oh, my car broke down, I need to come tomorrow, or I didn't get a ride, I can pick it up tomorrow. And you guys, as volunteers and site directors, are fantastic about being flexible and sometimes even delivering, which is above and beyond. And so I know it takes several days, sometimes it's even a week, and that's okay, that's fine. But when you send me that report, you are done distributing boxes. Because if you distribute boxes after that, I don't know about it, and I can't include it in your count. And then my numbers for the Department of Agriculture are wrong. So you have to finish distributing boxes before you send me your report. All right, monthly reports for those of y'all using Link to Feed in any capacity. So you'll record your monthly visits in Link to Feed. You will do the attendance feature. You'll do your kit issuance to check your numbers. Then number 3, you will complete the Microsoft forms using the link you have. And I haven't yet, but I'm also going to put that link on the forms page on the website, so that link is accessible to you guys. So here's that link. So this is a picture of the form. You guys have been using this beautifully. No paper involved. It makes Link to Feed truly paperless if you're using it to the best of its abilities. It's the same questions as the paper form. So you are answering those questions, putting in your site name, and but the same deal. If you submit this, you are done distributing boxes. Okay, so any report that you turn into me, you are done distributing boxes when you turn that in. All right. So we're talking about this transfer form. This is if a client would like to switch sites. We're going to have them fill this out. If you are using Link to Feed, you don't need to do the paper form. You're just going to move their site in Link to Feed. And So you'll just change your site, and if you're not using link speed, you'll use the paper form. Okay, this doesn't happen super often, but it does happen. We don't need to talk much about that because it is not as common as closures or things like that. Client files. So this is important. If you are using paper at all, if you are using paper and then using link to feed, if you're using paper at any step, you have to keep that for how many years?
3 years.
3 years. 3 years.
Mhm.
So even if you're using paper and then entering things in link to feed, you have to keep it for 3 years. That in itself is another incentive to use link to feed live. Because there's no paper. Because even if you're using link to feed and you're doing paper first, you still have to keep that paper. You have to store it. But if you don't have paper at all, there's no paper. You don't have to store it. You're paper free. Okay? So, but if you do have paper, you have to keep all that in files, make sure it stays organized. Every client should have their own file. Okay. All right. Everyone should be familiar with the beneficiary rights poster, right? So can anyone tell me what the beneficiary rights poster does? Why do you have it up? What does it do? What is it communicating to clients?
It tells that you, it tells you that, you know, there's no discrimination. No discrimination, with your age, your sex, or race, or creed, or color.
Okay.
And then we have on it, the date of the distribution of the boxes.
Okay. Okay, so Lula was answering the question and she said, she described the Injustice for All poster. So that's the other poster.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was the green poster. Everyone knows the green poster. That one right here. We'll talk about this in a minute. But Injustice for All,
Yeah.
this is the other poster.
But the other one.
I don't have an example here, but what's the beneficiary rights poster?
It's a.
Or in the chat, you can answer in the chat as well. Sorry, go ahead.
No, if that poster is white that you sign at church, name at the top
Yeah.
and everything right there. And then it tells you what all the benefits and the discrimination and all of
Thank
that. Yeah, it's right
Yeah,
there.
so, perfect. So Sister Dixon, said that it has to do if you are a church distributing CSFP or a religious, entity, organization. It's just telling folks that if you are a church, you cannot require attendance to a religious, you know, yeah, a fellowship, or you can't require anything.
No.
They don't owe you anything for receiving
Nothing.
that box. Yep. So that's all that poster says. And we need to be following that, of course, in our organizations. They do not have to go to, you know, a church service or anything like that
No.
to get their box. Okay? Make sure your church events are separate from your food distributions. Okay? We've never had any issues with that. I think we're good there. All right, nutrition. You guys see every month the nutrition papers I send in your packets. All that is an example. You don't just get one, because every client gets them in their box. But the one I send you is just an example of what your clients are getting. Right? It's to show you, in case a client says, what recipe are we getting this month?
That's it.
You can say, oh, you're getting a chickpea salad. I don't know. You know, something like that.
Apple.
Our wonderful, or a sweet potato casserole. We love those sweet potatoes, right?
So do.
I know, you guys get lots of sweet potatoes. I know. But our nutrition materials come from our wonderful nutrition team, in-house. at
Mhm.
Low Country Food Bank. They create all of those recipes. They try the food themselves.
Yes.
They really try to make nutritious, delicious recipes. So I hope some of your clients are utilizing those. Good, that's great. So that's where those come from. They're packed into every box. So everyone gets those picture-based recipes. We really try to include the ingredients that are in the box.
Mhm.
So they have everything right there, maybe adding just a few items like salt, pepper, whatever. And then, they can make that recipe. Food Bank also provides fresh produce. So that is not federal. That is something the Food Bank does because we believe it's important that all of our clients that we serve get fresh produce because we know how beneficial that is for the health of our clients. So-
expensive.
Especially for our seniors, it's expensive. So we add that, that is a cost that the Food Bank incurs. We take that on. It is not federally funded. It's to no cost to you guys. So that can go to anyone. So federal product, that whole package, the box, the cheese, has to go to that client.
Mhm.
But if you have tons of sweet potatoes left over, you can give that out your regular distribution,
Yeah.
or you can, give that out, and that is completely fine.
Mhm.
You cannot give out boxes to anyone.
No.
You give out the produce to anyone.
Maybe ask them about that.
Afterwards, after you give it to your CSFP clients first, of course.
They were fighting with that cheese.
No.
They were fighting for that cheese.
We have
I
some
don't
clients who love the
understand.
cheese, and some clients who hate the cheese. I find that it falls in two categories. You love the cheese or you hate the cheese.
Yeah,
Yes.
they be asking, well, did you put the cheese in the bag, in the bag? Yeah, I don't care about my fault, they want that cheese.
So Ms. Lula's talking about her clients who really like the cheese.
They really do. Yeah, I
Yes,
can't
they
see it.
do.
I heard it makes a great grilled cheese and a great mac and cheese.
Uh-huh.
So there's that. All right, great. Okay, we're getting to the end.
Good.
Thank you guys for hanging in with me. All right, storage. We need to make sure we are storing these boxes safely. Remember, this is federal funds via food, okay? So they want to know that it's being stored safely and getting out. Okay, so storage facilities must be sanitary, free from rodents, insects. That's why we ask you guys at site visits, what's the pest control service? You guys get it checked out. You look around, you might not see us doing this, but we are looking for pests or signs of pests. You need to make sure everything is up off the floor, 6 inches,
Mhm.
right? Everything off the floor, because it's less likely that rodents, insects are gonna get into them that way. You also want to make sure they are pulled up away from the walls. So if they're up against the wall, it's more likely that rodents and insects are gonna get in. So up against the wall, up off the floor. Okay, we need to make sure that they're being stored at proper temperatures. 50 degrees, 70 degrees for dry storage, and then 36 to 40 for refrigerator. We need to make sure that we are having what in our refrigerators with our cheese? Thermometers. We need thermometers in there. What do we need to track the temperatures?
Oh,
Thank you.
Oh, right. That's what I'm talking about.
Temperature log.
Yeah.
We need a temperature log.
Mhm.
Make sure that that fridge is working, right? You're keeping that cheese cold. All right, this is the poster we were talking about earlier. And Justice for All, our green poster. This has always been green, but this used to have a picture of the Statue of Liberty. So make sure you have the new one. All right. If you're in person, I can get you a new one. If you are online, website, go to the CSFP forms, it's on there. Okay. It'll be the little one that'll print out. You need a bigger one. When you are at the food bank, come find me, I'll get you a bigger one. Okay. And this poster is for civil rights training, right? We're making sure that there's no discrimination happening. Okay, so that civil rights training that you do do with your volunteers, that we need that log every year.
Yes,
Okay,
every year.
every year. You can just do that training right off of this poster.
Mhm.
Has all the information you need. Which we'll talk about in the next slide. Okay, so you can do it right off of that, fill out that log for me and get it back. To me. All right. Make sure new staff is being trained, new volunteers on those non-discrimination policies. Civil rights training, what all does it entail? How to assist participants with language barriers. You guys should have received the new poster that needs to be posted, the Interpretive Services poster.
Right, that's why that too.
So that is also on the website. That needs to be posted, and that helps anybody with language barriers. This poster talks about how to assist individuals with disabilities, how to differentiate between program complaints and civil rights complaints. I don't like the cheese. That's not a civil rights complaint.
Mhm.
Right? That is just, or that's not a, yeah, that is a program complaint.
Mhm.
Right? Do you have a question?
Mhm.
I thought I saw your hand
No.
up, sorry. It'll talk about conflict resolution, non-compliance resolution, customer service expectations, and talks about the protected classes. Right? Race, color, national origin, age, sex, or disability. Okay? All right. Public notification, the most common finding at site visits. Public notification. This is the form that you use to advertise to people around your community to say, hey, we have free food for seniors. Come get it. Sign up for this program. But it's a little more than that because it does need that non-discrimination statement on it. Right? So that full non-discrimination statement. You can create your own form. You're welcome to do that. So this is kind of a lot. And we have a nice template form
Mhm.
where that font is really small and it has enough room to put your distribution hours and days and all of that. That public notification form is also on their website. You can print that and use that template. Okay. Ways to do a public notification. Couple different ways. Well, really two ways. One, you put a paper flyer out in the community. This needs to be done how often? Once a year. Very good. Public notification with the full non-discrimination statement needs to be done once a year. Okay. It can be done paper version, can be put out in the community, could be a library, a community center,
Mhm.
at another church, newspaper. But what's the problem with the newspaper?
Everybody don't get one.
Well, okay, sure, that could be a problem. But also, if you're gonna put that full non-discrimination statement, you pay per word. That'll get pretty crazy,
Really?
right?
And
So
put on
feel free to
Facebook.
put your distribution hours in the
Everybody
in the
don't have
newspaper.
Facebook.
That's great. But you need to have that full non-discrimination statement
I don't see it's
at
a
least
big
once a
one.
year somewhere else. Or if you want to pay for it in the newspaper, that's your choice.
They print mine every week.
Okay, but does it have that full non-discrimination statement?
They have, she have it abbreviated somehow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
wherein all the words really mean the same thing.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
All right, that's what I do.
Mhm.
So
Radio
it can be paper,
station.
in a public place. But if you do this version, this is an important step. You get a copy, write the same, your hours and days, same
Mhm.
information,
Mhm.
flip it over and put, I posted this at the library on Thursday, 9/25.
Mhm.
And then you're gonna put that in your folder with all your CSFP stuff. It's all organized, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna keep that for whenever we visit
Mhm.
or Department of Agriculture visits.
Okay.
Okay?
So,
Just a second.
so I was gonna say, we have it looking for cares, visible, and like all the forms and paper and all that kind of stuff. And we put that out every day that we distribute to, whether it's if we're having clients that day, we do it every single day.
Okay,
Does that need to be like that, or are you saying I can just go out and think and say it once a year?
that's great, but you said it's in your facility?
Yeah, we have a bulletin board that we put outside in the parking lot where people
Gotcha.
can see it.
Okay, so we had a question for everyone online, about posting those hours and times right outside of the building, right? So, maybe outside the door, something like that on your property. And that's great for communicating with clients. And we want your hours and days posted on the outside of your building to communicate with clients when it's a different day. Like, oh, I'll come back Tuesday for the distribution. And that's great, but public notification is something slightly different. So public notification has to be off of your property,
Had to be on
just
somebody
be
else's
out
side.
in the community. So it can be either done paper, which is the first thing I talked about, or it can be put on a website. It can be put on your organization's website, or it can be put on your Facebook page for your
I'm
organization
telling
or
Facebook.
your church. Okay, so, but remember that non-discrimination statement needs to be included.
Yeah.
And if it's on Facebook, you can't just do it as a post because that's gonna get lost in your feed. So it needs to be in the about section. Or you can take a picture of the form and link it. So it pops up as a link. Okay, so it can be online or it can be paper. For your site visit, if I show up and I say public notification, where is it at? You can either show me the paper where it's written on the back, or you can pull up your website or Facebook page. And that's how we would check that. Got it? All right. So what will we look for during an administrative review?
All of that.
Yes. So this is different than a site visit. A site visit, we send you the checklist so you know what to prepare for. An administrative review, this is what's done by the Department of Agriculture, okay? So their site visits are more random. They don't visit everyone. So every year they're gonna go through the list and they're gonna say, I'm gonna visit you and you. And they're just gonna show up at your distribution time, okay? So, and they're gonna look at some forms, they're gonna look at how you're distributing, they're gonna look at how you're storing your boxes. Okay, so just be prepared for that. It's not gonna happen to everyone, it's only a few a year, but make sure you're ready. And this is why we do our site visits. Make sure everything is in order, so you are prepared for when the real deal happens. Okay. All right. South Carolina Department of Agriculture, I mentioned Chris Doyle. He's our contact. He's very open to communication with clients. He will refer me clients. He'll send me an email and say, I got a call from this client. They're in your service area, sign them up. Right, so he's very communicative. He is happy to hear from any of you. So if you have a question that you feel like you want to talk to him about policies or whatever, there's his phone, his office phone, and his email. Okay. And also address. Okay. Super nice guy. Happy to answer any questions that you have. And remember, I will be sending this PowerPoint out, so you'll have access to all that.
You're exact.
You need to go back. No, you're good. Okay. And we are at the end of the line, guys. Okay. Last thing I'll say is here's my contact information. Most of you guys have it. See you. Slow nodding at me. That's my extension is 103. Tiffany, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be working on the program as well. So we'll be sharing that load a bit as both of our duties, our workloads change a bit. So her office extension is 121. She is available for questions as well. Here's the email, all of that information for y'all. That is it. Thank you guys so much for bearing with me. So before everyone kind of skedaddles,
That's Ryan.
I want to leave it open to, or kind of open
Thank
the
you.
floor to
Yeah.
questions.
Thank you, Ryan.
We do have a question from Jill.
Okay.
She wants to know more about the live process of using link to feed
Okay,
during a
I'm
distribution.
hungry.
It says our
You
clients
do
are
that
not listed
too.
in
Done
towns,
all right, guys,
so they don't
let's
get out of
listen
their
to
car.
Tiffany repeating the questions from the chat real quick, just because, these questions might apply to you guys as well. Sorry, Tiffany,
So
go
yeah,
ahead.
so Jill's just asking about the live process. Our clients cannot live 20 pounds, so they don't get out of their cars. They have to park now and walk up to a table with the computer.
That's something.
I can start answering
That's a good
that.
question. Yeah, go ahead.
So,
Tiffany.
Jill, I participate in a variety of different distributions using Link to Feed, and as far as doing drive-through distributions, is either you can go up to the cars carrying whatever device, usually preferably a tablet,
Or a laptop.
to create profiles, or not necessarily create profiles, but to go ahead and check them in as far as their CSFP boxes. But you could have them park and come up to you. So it's a variety of different ways that you can assist clients live with Link to Feed. And it also depends on what your team is capable of. Let me know if that answers your question. And then Samantha, I'm not sure if you want to talk with, thank you. I'm not sure if you want to chat with me or if you want to chat with Paige, but we can definitely chat before we kind of end the recording.
Well, I have a concern that came to me. I had a senior get one of the boxes. Now this happened, this was an October box, so not an October box, an August box. And she came across a can that was in her box. It's the only person that I've come across it. And I just want y'all to be aware, this is dog food.
Oh, my God.
Luckily, the senior that got it recognized what it was, but I haven't had anybody else complain about it or bring it to my attention. So I'm hoping that this was just a fluke and nobody else has come across this.
Samantha, did you happen to get your eyes on this? Like, did you see the can?
Ma'am,
Samantha, did you see the can?
I have the can in my hand.
Oh,
She brought me the can.
okay.
Jesus.
So
Why did this miss and put it in the box?
So that she took it to her house and then bring it back? Or she opened it up there?
Samantha, did she open it up at your agency, or did she come back to your agency with the can?
She brought it back to me. She opened the box, and as she was going through the box, she recognized what it was.
You been the only one?
So I think we'll follow up with that,
We
just
will.
because if this is a one-off situation, we might have to investigate a little bit more. So we'll coordinate and talk with the volunteer manager, who's usually over the packing of the boxes,
Okay.
and see what's going on with that. Could you also like send us a picture of
Yeah.
that? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that should definitely be a one accident.
That's got dog written in it.
Ryan
It's in this country.
and everything is on a pallet. But yeah, we'll definitely investigate that. Thank you. Okay, any other questions in the chat or in person?
Yes, I have a
Yes,
question.
Ethel.
Last month, I think I had about 4 people. They were on the active list,
Yes.
and yesterday, they were on the waiting list.
Okay. I'd have to look at those specific clients. So, I'm sorry, Ethel asked about a couple clients that she said were on the active list, and now this month they're on the waiting list. So, unless I talk to you, as a site director and you say, these clients don't want it every month, but they're gonna come occasionally. So they want to be put on the waiting list, then I will do that. But as far as those clients moving without you knowing, that should not happen. The only reason why that would happen is if the client has missed 2 months in a row, they go to suspended, and then on that third month, they will then be moved to the waiting list if they miss a month.
Oh, one of them is my mother, and she has not missed any since she started.
Let's talk offline after we're done. We'll talk about that. I'll look those clients up for you, okay?
Okay.
So we'll look at that, but it shouldn't be happening.
I was surprised.
Yeah, we'll get that rectified. Any other questions?
For attendance purposes, did we have anybody on the call from Shepherd of the Sea? Or Caring and Sharing? You can let us know either through the chat or unmute yourself to let us know, Shepherd of the Sea or Caring and Sharing.
You want to also talk about the people that were supposed to come in person, just check the date.
Oh, also if Heart to Heart is on the call, if you can let us know as well in the chat, or you can unmute yourself for attendance purposes. And the survey again, I just kind of copied and pasted it over. It's back in the chat. If you can click on that link and fill out that survey for us as we were wrapping up, that would be great too.
And after we close the call out, you will be getting an email just to follow up. Everyone will. It'll have that survey on there and a few attachments of things we talked about today. It'll also have the slides, so you can refer back to those.
Yes, and I need to take it back to my agency so they can look at it.
Perfect.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, please share any useful information that you've heard today with your volunteers. Okay. I also just want to do a plug for getting me your agreement. So your CSF agreement was included in your packet last month. So I've only received, I think probably half, maybe a little more. I do need that from you guys. So if you need me to send that to you again, I can do that. Please email me, but make sure you give that to me, please. All right.
I think mine should have been live.
I'm sorry.
Should have two things. She didn't bring it with everything. I know
If
one was
you're,
supposed
if
to.
you're not sure if yours is turned in, I can check that in a minute.
Should have.
All right.
I see that
If
keep
there are
going.
no other questions via Zoom or in person, going once. All right. If you have any other questions, of course, we are always available, phone, email, all of that. Thank you for taking out the time to listen to this presentation, to learn about the program. I know it is not the most exciting stuff, but we still appreciate all you guys do to serve the seniors and your communities as a whole. We couldn't do it without you guys. So you guys are wonderful, so wonderful, and I enjoy working with all of you. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
rest of your day.
You said that you had the poster that you